Welcome everybody to the Cole and Tabor podcast. We're gonna do what you think we're gonna do, which is talk about movies, and we're excited to have you here with us. You might notice I'm back on the high seas once again, and
shipped out just recently.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the crab for dinner tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. That's the other thing I do for this show is I cater, and it's all fresh caught, so.
And fresh killed.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't boil them like you're supposed to. He does it with a hammer first.
Yeah, it's more humane.
Surely.
Sick. So, what movies are we talking about today, Tabor?
I was thinking, let's just jump right into one.
Cool.
The Creator.
Oh yeah.
Because that one was the furthest away. Because we saw that.
Yep.
I saw that like opening night.
I saw it last week, so about a week late. But
what do you think?
Yeah,
man, you were the one that was most pro The Creator.
I was amped up about it for sure.
All that amp, raising to the top of the mountain. Did you fall?
I fell a little bit.
Okay.
And it was mostly story related.
Yes.
Everything looked and felt as cool as I thought it would. Like, the production design was just sweet. Everything was.
Absolutely. I mean, all the CGI, all the effects, all of that looked really, really well done. And especially for the budget, because it was relative, I don't know, like a ridiculous amount, right? Ridiculously small amount. With how good it looks. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, that sounds kind of like Gareth Edwards. He did that, was it Monsters? Was that what his movie was?
Yeah.
That was done on a very low budget.
$80 million.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not huge.
Okay, so
I mean, it's good, but it's not
ridiculously
huge.
Small might be an exaggeration of words, but, for how good it looks and how we perceive CGI,
Totally.
You wouldn't think that you wouldn't see, like, any seams.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. What do you think about it?
Pretty much the same boat, except I don't know anything about the story that I really could say that I liked.
I think I'm with you. I fell a little bit was like me speaking cautiously. The story was bunk.
Yeah.
It was just like so uninspired.
Yeah, very same. Like I can't think of any specific. I don't know, it just feels like something we've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly Blade Runner is a huge inspiration.
Totally. What did they call their robots?
In Blade
Simulants.
Runner, replicants.
In this one, simulants.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's very close.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it wears that. I mean, visually, like, the worlds don't look very similar, but it's more like the vibe, the theme. So I don't know. It kind of left me wanting a lot. But
totally.
I mean, let's start with the beginning, and we'll see how chronologic we can go. But it opens up, and it's John David Washington, and I don't know the wife. What is her name?
I don't know her either. I forget what her character's name is too. Like Nina, Maya.
Maya. There we go. And they're having a good time, and then all of a sudden there's an attack, and immediately, we get this reveal that's John David Washington is a spy.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, the momentum for his character for me was kind of killed right there.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I don't know. I think you can redeem characters, but presumably, they were together for years before this, and he's been lying the whole time. Not only was he lying about who he was also lying about his goals, because ultimately he was his goal the whole time was to kill her family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like, where... I don't know. I don't know how to mine the redemption from that.
Yeah, having a hard time siding with him on anything.
Yeah, or like when he's like
Agreed.
crying about his wife dying. It's like, but you know, that was kind of the plan.
Right, right.
Maybe
Yeah.
not for her death, but she was never going to accept what you were or what
Yeah,
you were
this
doing.
wasn't going to work out. Like, you go kill her dad, and
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. Like, for us to believe that they were something that was going to work and that she actually represented happiness for him in some long-term way,
Yeah.
like, everything about the situation would have had to be different. That
Yes.
wasn't even presented as, like, a conflict. Like, oh, but I love her, but I have to do this thing. You know, like, that was never, like, set against each other, those two things.
Yeah, truly, I never felt like he regretted what he did more than how it ended up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, maybe a little bit towards the end, but I don't know. It's still, it more felt like he was more regretful that his wife died, and than the real harm or like the fact that he lied to her. Like he never really even says like I was wrong, or I feel like he never says that. I don't know.
True. Yeah. Yeah. Never felt bad about deceiving her, or like out loud anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there was a lot that I did like about his character and like the shades in his character, but that was something that was very much missing from the complexity.
Yeah, and I just wasn't really sure where they were going to go. And I don't know. I felt like John David Washington in this movie felt like he did in the Tenet, whereas just like I felt like it was too bland, like he was a blank slate. That may just be me though.
Yeah, I don't think I felt that he was bland in this, but I did feel like there was I guess I didn't really like I wanted to like him, and I kind of did like him, but that's because I like John David Washington. But and like I like how he acts and stuff, like but the character he was acting, there was a lot about the character that just didn't make sense, so that was a struggle.
Yeah, I feel that.
I'm wondering if I'm overplaying this in my own head, but I feel like the whole the weapon is a child thing has been done 100 times. Or am I just thinking of like, I know it happened in X-Men 3. I think it happened in the Daredevil Netflix series. Am I just thinking of like a couple of times? Is it not a cliche? Because to me, it really feels like a cliche by the time it's done in this movie.
It definitely feels like a trope. I couldn't name any movies like off the top of the dome where it was like we have to save a child and then take that or and then that's the movie. But I know I've seen that plot line. A bunch of other times. I mean, because it happens in Deadpool, maybe.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Deadpool 2.
Right, yeah, with the kid from Wilder People. We meet his character, quickly find out he's a double agent. Everything goes to hell.
We learn about the giant space laser.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that thing. I thought that thing was crap. Like,
yes.
To center the whole plot on, like, we built this giant weapon device.
That is ultimately powerful.
Yeah. And it's just like, apparently there must just be one, but it's like, it can show up anywhere, like, without people knowing in advance. This freaking giant thing that takes up the whole sky. It's like they have no idea it was coming until it's like 40 miles away and they can see it huge in their face. Yeah.
I mean, so
that was weird.
I like that concept of like the lights, like that's creepy or like it's foreboding to watch those lights track across large landscapes and waterscapes.
Yeah.
But then, but by the time it's used, it's just, I think it's overused, or because the amount of times things explode in this, it like every explosion starts to lose wait, because it's just happening all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it seems like this giant super weapon thing is like, it's not that cool or impressive because all it does is airstrikes. But airstrikes that you can see ahead of time. It moves like a slug.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I don't know. It seems like it's, like, not much more of a threat than just flying in a couple of jets with, like, payloads attached and bombing a place with nuclear weapons or something. Or, I mean, intercontinental freaking nuclear warheads. Like, it seems like the weapon itself is kind of pointless.
They are attacking modern day China, and it is weird that modern day China has no recourse for it. Or not modern day China, future China. Which is like what do they call it? I'm not going to remember. They have a new name for it though.
Did they?
Yeah, but definitely.
Oh yeah, New Asia.
New Asia. There we go.
Yeah.
So not just China.
Sure.
But when it's moving over, like it feels like a slower, less intimidating Death Star.
Totally.
They use too much, because I feel like one of the things with the Death Star is that it was used sparingly, especially in that first movie.
Mm-hmm.
That when it happened, like when you saw planets get destroyed, there was power behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time we see it explode an entire, like wipe a city off the map in this one, it's kind of, I don't know.
Again.
Yeah, like, it just got dry.
It did.
The threat, like, you understood that there was a threat, but the threat became less and less.
Yeah. But it was treated the whole time like this, like, oh, this massive super weapon that really turned the tide of the war, because, we didn't have airstrikes before.
Yeah.
And then if they destroy, that's another thing. It's also like the Death Star in the sense that, like, well, no, it's not like the Death Star, because the Death Star, they rebuilt it and it did come back. But the way this one is treated is like, oh, if we destroy it, then then the war turns in our favor again. It's like, because they can't build another one? Yeah. Or like because they don't have another one lying in wait when that one inevitably gets destroyed? Like, none of this is like tactical warfare that makes any sense. There's like no tactic. Basically, the story was written by someone who had no desire to make anything make sense. They just like did and said a bunch of stuff that they thought would play well to an uninformed audience, and they just didn't do their research or make any sense of anything. But
like this ultimately, because if we're talking about like America in like the sense of like actual America and this fictionalized, hyperalized version of it, that New Asia destroying this thing would then just lead to them building another one. Again.
Totally.
And,
absolutely.
And then this time they actually build two instead of one.
Yeah, for real.
And the part about the plan with the simulants is that, the only goal was to destroy that thing, and then that was going to be it.
Right.
Which is fine if you're thinking of, like, it's fine if you're thinking in just, like, the peace terms, Like, if that's what you want the end of the story to be. But realistically, from what we've seen in the movie's universe itself, that's not the end. That's the start of something. As we've seen in modern day, America doesn't just give up after you blow up their biggest weapon.
Right. Yeah. No, totally. I found it like weird that there was like a juxtaposition of how this movie looked and like what it was under the hood. And it's like, you have Gareth Edwards directing, and I don't know who the production designers and cinematographer and all the other creatives were, but they were like at the top of their game. But it came from this like honestly kind of garbage script that I could easily see the exact same script beat for beat being an absolutely terrible B movie if it were just, like if less money was spent on it. But it has like a B movie story. It was not very well developed, but then someone put the right people behind it to make it look like something much better than it was.
I'm pretty sure Gareth Edwards was a part of the story the whole way through.
Oh, was he?
Based on credits, because I think he has the story by and the written by credit or
Gotcha.
something like that.
Okay. Well, honestly, Monsters was better than this. I think he wrote Monsters also.
He also wrote Godzilla, but I think the thing.
Oh, did he?
Maybe he didn't write it. He definitely directed the Godzilla 2014 or whatever.
14.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, 2014. And it was a good one. I liked it.
I think the same problem that one had for me is I hated the human characters of that movie, and I just don't really feel that here. And I don't know, it's not like the actor's fault. It's more just that the characters come and they go.
Yeah.
Because like when we're getting into the where he meets the soldiers, and then you meet I don't remember the older woman, the chief.
Yeah. Real Jane Lynch vibes.
Yeah, it should just have the actors up so I can. Allison Janney, which I like her.
Okay, cool. I don't know who she is.
She was in I, Tonya. She played the mom. I don't think you've seen that.
I haven't.
Anyways, so he goes from. We learn about the weapon. He tries to be a nomad for a while, and then he gets recruited to go stop or find the ultimate weapon. And even what do they call the Maya before we know that she is the guy, the creator? Yeah. Nirmata, yeah. So he's tasked to go find the weapon and find out who Nirmata is. And we meet all the bad guys, which are the soldiers and the Allison Janney's character, Captain Howell. And then he breaks off, and we find the weapon, which turns out is a little girl. And that moment is kind of, because I feel like, back to the set design where it's just that giant door, and it's this big empty room, and the like silly cartoons are on the screen. Like I liked leading up to that moment.
Yeah,
that was all pretty good. And then that first glance or what they share, like again, it comes down to like that little girl. I feel like she was given no character as well. Like she was just supposed to be like the symbol of something without any like agency of herself. And when she talks, it's uncanny because she has that one line where it's even used in the trailer where it's like, well, what do you want? And then she says, I want peace between androids and humans.
Yeah.
That line doesn't play in the movie any better than it plays in the trailer. It's not good.
No, because, like, honestly, she has no idea what's going on, so why would she have this, like, altruistic, like, mile-high view and, like, know to want peace? Like, she doesn't even know. She doesn't know what she is. She doesn't know what anything is. Her character was very oblivious to everything.
Yeah, except apparently she knows this one thing, which...
Yeah.
Or has this full understanding. Like... if it was a fish out of water story, she would be the character that we would be learning things through.
Right.
But she knows all of this one specific thing already.
Just, wasn't very believable.
No, and I didn't feel like any of the characters really stood out to me. Because then we get introduced to his friend and his friend's wife, I believe. And then they're not of any... consequence,
Right. Yeah.
And that just feels like it's the constant thing of like characters come and then they go and then they come and then they go and you're not really attached to anybody, because I didn't feel attached to the little girl or John David Washington.
Same. Yeah. They could have lost, mission could have failed, they both could have died, and I would have felt about the same about the movie as I did with how things... Well, maybe that's not totally true, because, like, even when it's corny, you do gotta love a happy ending, and him kind of, like, sort of getting to reunite with Maya was nice. I kind of liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was bullcrap and it wasn't her.
Yeah, it was another android.
Yeah.
Simulant,
yeah.
and then
go
on
for it.
No, you go. You go.
Okay. One of the design things that I didn't like, which most design related things I loved, but one that I didn't like was the opening sequence in the movie when they're like doing that expository, like introducing you to how, what the recent history of humans and robots is. And in that whole sequence, it's like, it's clear that it's meant to take place in the future of our world.
Yes.
It's not like an alternate reality where things were different in the 50s or whatever. It's like the future of our world. But all of the like footage that they use showing things that happened between now and 2060 or whatever all looks like freaking scratchy freaking film footage from like the 50s. It was so stupid. It was like just everything about it was stupid. And it's like showing these robots do surgery and it's all like grainy old school footage, and then it does the like United States military press conference or something where they're like, again, just an extremely stupid expository thing where a guy gives an end to end less than 1 minute speech with no apparent reason other than to like speak directly to the audience, but it's done under the guise of like, oh, he's talking at some commemoration or something.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's been 10 years since they blew up Los Angeles. Then we built the whatever weapon that is stupid. And ever since then, New Asia has continued to harbor AI, and we will seek it out and destroy it no matter where it is. And then everyone's like, yeah! And he walks off stage. Like, that was his whole speech.
Mm-hmm.
And that looked like it was filmed in the 80s. But it was like 2050 or 2045 or something. That was just the stupidest design choice like I could ever imagine.
It seems like it's kind of trying to have the effect that you get from an Alien or a Blade Runner, where the technology was older back then, so it's trying to recreate dated futuristic technology, but still kind of set itself in a way that we already have all of these advancements.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that was a little displeasing. You know what maybe my favorite thing in the whole movie was?
What?
Were the sprinter bomb robot things. Those were so cool. When the first one just comes chugging down the dock and you're like watching it like come through the fog or whatever, when it takes shape and the way it's like running, which is like very mechanical but also kind of natural. Like that whole
goal.
Yeah, that was kind of terrifying to see that first one just coming at you. That was cool. I like that.
That was I had the same thing. Like, that whole sequence was really good. And they're defending the bridge, and then the second one comes through, and we see a little bit more of the little girl's powers, and I thought all of that stuff was pretty good. And you also saw more of the ruthlessness of America.
Totally.
Also, a very pro-AI sentiment and a very anti-America sentiment in this.
Right, yeah.
Isn't any inherent good or badness to it, because you can be... Sure. You can portray America however you want. It seems a very accurate portrayal of us as well.
In a way, militarily, yes.
In a military, yes.
Yeah, idealistically, I thought it was kind of backwards in the sense that, like, American public sentiment in this movie was very, like, anti-AI. And all of these, like, I forget where they were, Tibet or something. Like, all these different villages you were seeing in New Asia that are just, like, living side by side with AI in this, like, peaceful, harmonic, like, their life, we're life. They have rights just like we do, kind of, like, intuitive level. I just found that so bonkers because it's like, yeah, while people who live a little more, like, a little closer to the earth and a little more in tune with life, while people like that do tend to have a heightened appreciation for life of all forms, I don't think that they would necessarily, I don't think it's just like, oh, obviously they would map that onto artificial life as well. I'm not sure that would translate, but what is almost certainly the case is that if there is anyone out there that's going to begin saying like, well, this thing is lifelike enough, doesn't it also have some rights? That's like a very progressive idea. And like the American public, while yes, we have a lot of very like anti-progressive sentiment, I think on a large scale we have,
I think
what am I trying to say?
I think we'd get there eventually, but
I think it would start here. Like I think that
the only
like
reason I don't think so is because if you take the parallels of this and 9/11, it was like Islamic sentiment in America was at an all-time high after that happened, and you know, 10 years later, it wasn't that much better, and now we're 20 years from it, and it's still wishy-washy.
Yeah, and where you go in the country has a lot to do with it as well. And you're right, like given that there was an attack in this movie from the AI, that's a very good point. On from the AI, like supposedly, which turned out not to be the case at all.
Yeah, if you take that to its logical conclusion, if you do like match those up, then this movie also thinks 9/11 was an inside job.
Good point. That's funny. Yeah. Okay. So I'll rescind what I said because you're right. Like we would react in that way in the aftermath of an attack. Outside of that, though, I think that if there were anyone saying like, "Oh, AI has rights," like and embracing such a progressive idea, I think it would be people in the United States and people in Canada.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah.
One of my friends,
dude, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm sorry to get political because like we do this more than we intend to. But how weird are we in America that we have both very, very strong progressive voices? Like there's a large part of the populace that is like very progressive in nature, and a large part of the populace that is very like anti-progressive. Like we're so interestingly divided. We might as well be like two different, you know, ethno-cultural factions that are in a civil war, but like
of the brain, and hopefully it never, well, not of the brain because it's not like any of its smart discourse. Sure.
Yeah.
No, yeah, America's crazy, especially right now. It feels, you know, it's not unique to say that it feels like we're in the most divided time. I also feel like that it's always been that with America. We literally got into a war like 100 or so years ago. When was that, dude? Not my
150 years ago.
Yeah, which
a little more than 150 years ago.
At the end of the day, you know, that's not that long ago.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of countries, that's not that long ago.
Yeah, we're all the great-great-grandchildren of those people, you know?
Yeah. And that stuff is very much, I feel like we feel that every day. You know, because it's basically the same, for the same reasons, too. Like the idea of like coddling states' rights into every conversation, even when it's like clearly you're just saying, you know, you want something bad and then hiding it behind something else.
Right, yeah. Yep.
I don't know.
Totally.
We're crazy. Maybe too political right there, but we're crazy.
Yeah, we can edit whatever we need to.
Yeah. I was just my friend brought up about the AI in this movie, the simulants. It was crazy that they're as dumb as they are. Because the point of building AI, you know, because they're basically just building AI that are human-like.
Yeah, true.
When our idea of AI is we're building them to be, you know, better than us and exponentially. So, in this movie, they're just as dumb as us. They're us.
Totally, absolutely. I don't know why I didn't catch on to that, but yeah, they called everything that was robotic or mechanical AI, and like none of it had the hallmarks of AI. The whole, like you're saying, the whole point of AI, or I guess what we would call AGI in the current conversation, the whole point of it is like to create a neural network that doesn't have the same physical limitations as us. It can grow faster and bigger and like not have to. Yeah, it was kept within human limitations in this movie, which is totally pointless.
Yeah, and then if you think of AI in general, like this might be more political, but I don't the fact like that you would try to assert that there's an ethical way to make an AI. Like, why would we build AI? Like, what is the actual goal of building AI? It's not. It's either like defeat some sort of narcissism to be a creator in a sense,
Sure.
or it's literally just to make free labor.
Yeah, utility.
Yeah, there is no ethical AI in any sense. Like, why
Sure.
would you? There is no reason to build a robot that can think like a human and produce its own tasks, and then also make them sentient enough that, you know, that they would be able to have feelings, revolt, have love, like all that stuff is would never, you would hope would never come into the picture.
Right. Totally. I do think that it is an inevitability. Like, I think if we have almost unbound time ahead of us, like, we'll get there. If we keep figuring out these hurdles, like we've kind of we're getting out into space now, and we're about to learn how to settle in different places outside of Earth. If we keep just surpassing whatever limitations we find, if we continue to succeed at that for like, I don't know, several 100,000 more years or whatever, like, I think we get there. I think we inevitably get to where we have created something that is the same as us, and or maybe better. And I think we'll do it too. I don't think we'll have a second's hesitation about the
Consequences.
moral. Yeah, exactly. I think we'll do it.
Yeah, I do think that humans are crazy enough to just build an entire slave force and then give all those slaves emotions, and then you know, and then keep them as slaves for decades upon decades longer. I don't know. Like, it's such a weird conversation though, because I think it would be interesting if we could make AI that would be able to have emotions. But I think the problem with emotions is that it doesn't feel like that would be programmable. And that's the limitation of AI, is that there has to be a function of where it doesn't think for itself.
Okay.
Because how do you... So I don't know. How do you create something that thinks for itself? We don't know. And we could get there someday, but...
Right. But we're definitely a ways away from that.
That's the only reason I think it may never happen. Because I feel like we look at like the movies we've created that are set in the future, and we say that'll be our future. But then, in the, you know, there's probably hundreds of man hours on like a hoverboard, but that was never created. Is it because we haven't figured out how, or is it because it's just not possible?
Sure. Yeah. Or just like super impractical and like pointless.
Yeah. Where does AI become impractical?
Yeah. Just like too much to do. Yeah. I think if that's the limitation, if it's that it's impractical, I think, yeah, it'll be that way for a long time yet. But I like to think that it becomes worthwhile after a certain point. And maybe that's after we've become a, what do you call it, type 2 civilization, where we have just managed our whole solar system and just like run every bit of it.
I can't wait to be alive for that. It's going to be so dope.
I know. You know what's weird is I like logically I won't be alive to see such a day, but I don't actually believe that. Like, I don't believe that I won't be around to see these things that excite me so much. I like feel like I will.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
you
weird.
Believe you're going to be the first man to live to 1,000.
Right. Yeah.
You've heard that before, right? That guy's supposed to be living today.
Really? That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I love that.
I've heard that for a while now, though. But we wouldn't know until 1,000 years passed.
Yeah.
The guy was still alive.
Even using like very normal, like conservative even projections, I think that like people in our generation living to 130, I don't think that'll be unreasonable. I was trying to understand this better a while ago, and I read a statistic that basically like human life expectancy across the globe increases by 2 or 3 years every decade, and that has been kind of regular, at least if you average it out over the last like 100 years or whatever. And so if you take I think like average human life expectancy is like in the high 70s now or something like that. And it's like if you take the time between, so I'm 32, if I were to live to a ripe old age, let's say I lived to 100, you have like 7 more times 2 or 3 years of so like adding on to that life expectancy,
like 115.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, so then average life expectancy might be 110 or something like that, and then an old person lives to 130, you know? And like, I think that's how it'll be when we're old. And you say things like that and people think you're crazy or like,
it's possible.
Yeah, it's just taking current stuff and extrapolating. It's like it only makes sense for it to go that way. But
yeah, that's crazy to think about. Because I don't believe it's impossible. I don't know how probable it is, but
I fully, and I'm saying this without jest, I fully plan on living till I'm 130. And that was before I ever researched it. I've always just been like, I'm going to live till I'm 130.
You're going to make it, man.
I've kind of leaned into the information that like corroborates that.
Yeah.
And it's possible that I've ignored other information, but like it does seem possible to me.
Well, I guess we'll find out. Or maybe you'll just find out. I may not find out with you. See, that conversation was so much more interesting than the creator. Because like I think it does truly feel like the only thing I can say that I liked was that it looked great.
Yeah, totally. Like, I 100% agree.
Like the stuff on the side of people's heads, all of that was cool. The marketing leading up to it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Some of my favorite movie explosions I've ever seen. I agree that what you said, like their utility was diminished like each time, but they looked better than maybe any movie explosions I've seen before.
Yeah. Also, the casualties just got too much. It was like, at some point, like these numbers become too big for us to really feel them. Because that's like a problem with, big numbers in general, is that you can't really feel the difference between 1 million and 1 billion. You just know it's big. Yeah. And then when you get those visualizers, you're like, holy shit. So when the movie starts going into these, like, what we have, like 5 cities exploded, and they never really give you that number, like, but every casualty just starts to feel like it's a drop in a bucket rather than, like, the sacredity of each life that it's trying to make it feel like it is.
Yeah.
Which sucks to say that, that, I mean, they're fictional lives, so it doesn't really matter. But sucks to say that, to think that in general.
Yeah. I was also, I think, bothered by the whole concept of the creator in the movie. It's like, it was so not compelling to consider that, like, this apparently transferable title of the creator is just some person who's, like, really good at robotics and continues to tinker with it. Like, they're maybe on the bleeding edge of that technology, but it's like, why do they have like a godlike, or why do the robots have like a God-fearing attitude? What am I trying to say? It's like they regard them as if they are gods when they're just people who happen to be pretty good at robotics.
Yeah.
It was just stupid. And it's like, if they're that good, then that technology exists and other people could also probably do it. So why are they revered and protected in some way when it's just like, it was all very stupid.
Yeah, I think there's one more inconsistency I want to point out, and then we should move on.
Okay.
I don't understand the process of creating the daughter. So presumably after the explosion that she was in at the beginning, she was put into a coma.
Okay.
But the creation, the daughter, which was their daughter,
Yeah.
was lost in that explosion. But before all of this happened, she had already started the process of creating a clone of their baby.
Mm-hmm.
If she had never died in that explosion, would there be the AI baby and their actual baby?
Good question.
It seems like she was preparing for something that she would never could know that would happen.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's like she was made, like, yeah, before you laid it out just now, in my mind, it was like, yeah, she was made, like, because of the loss that occurred, but she wasn't. It was preempted.
Yeah, it would have to be, because she was in a coma for that amount of time.
Yeah, that's dumb. I don't like that.
If I understand the events of the movie correctly, that's what I think happened. And it would make no sense to do that unless you felt like something was already wrong.
Yeah.
And I just don't... That doesn't seem plausible either. So she just her character presumably just decided to do that. She was like, I want 2 babies. I mean, it makes sense because if she liked AI that much. But why base it off of your actual baby?
Yeah, who hasn't lost yet or anything and is going to exist in the world, and now you're just competing or creating a competing version of herself.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Also, I think the entire, like, all the problems with the exposition in this movie can be summed up in the scene where the guy looks into her ear hole and sees the spinning wheels that are identical to all the other spinning wheels in everyone's ear holes in this movie. He's poking around in there for 1 second. He just, like, takes a glimpse, and then he goes, oh my gosh, this is so much different than anything else. She's going to grow. And as she grows, she's going to be able to integrate with all technology. And from further and further away, the bigger she gets or the more developed she gets. And eventually she'll be one with all electronics, and she'll be able to control things like a god. And it's like, what? You saw the spinning wheels in her ear hole and you deduced all that in 30 seconds? Like, give me a break. That was just terrible.
It seems like this movie is very much leaning on its use of tropes and past sci-fi media for you to understand and forgive the parts that just don't make sense.
Yeah.
And I hate nitpicking, but it's just like when the movie isn't giving you much else to be enthralled by, I don't know, it's hard not to nitpick. Amen.
I'm saying creator 4.5 to maybe 5 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd go 4 to 4. Yeah, it's very middle of the road.
Okay.
Maybe less. Maybe 3.5 to 4. So I'm not copying you.
Cool.
I've got my own brain. Okay. So we might. That was 40 minutes long. So I'm not sure how much. Yeah.
We lambasted that son of a bitch.
It was all right though. I don't know. It's hard. Yeah. I hate being mean, but I don't know. Maybe next one will go better. Well, we might not get to dumb money though, because I think that. I don't know. We just met. Did you like dumb money?
I liked dumb money.
Okay, we'll try to get there.
Okay.
Saw X.
Okay, just saw that one like a couple hours ago.
Nice. Yep. I saw that one second. First off, what is your knowledge of the Saw movies? You've seen them all, right?
Seen them all. Yep.
Okay, and I've seen the first 3 and Spiral, and then this one.
Oh, then you've seen the best ones. Well, sorry, if you replace 2 for 4, then you've seen the best ones.
What happens in 4?
It does it basically takes place in the same time frame as 3, but you just see what's going on parallel to the events of 3 for some other characters that then like integrate with the story of 3. Yeah.
Nope, I didn't know. I didn't see all that. Okay. I've seen videos on all the movies, so I kind of know the plots of them. But for movies I've actually seen, just the first 3 and the last 2.
Yeah.
And Spiral.
Well, good.
Spiral, I don't like. The more I think about it.
Okay.
This one for me, I thought felt like the freshest take you could have on the Saw movies without completely redoing the entirety of the story.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, well, maybe I wouldn't say like the freshest take you could have, but it was good.
I maybe just the freshest take we've had.
Probably, yeah. Because like each time, so like 5, 6, 7, and then Jigsaw, which was 8, I think. All of them were just like so grasping at straws. It's like, okay, but what else also probably happened before he died, or what else can we throw into the mix, or whatever? And well, some of them took place after he died, but it was all, I don't know, it was all very hollow and dumb and lame. And this at least had like some compelling stuff in it. It's like, what's another episode in the life of John Kramer that was...
But we actually get to see it from his perspective. It's his movie.
And it was crucial to his like development as this person. Though he was already well into it by this point in time, it's crucial to his story.
He's going to die like almost like a month or two after this movie, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
So I thought the only thing I wasn't sure about is the ending of the movie. And I'm not going to say it's a great movie through it. It's a fun ride. Like
sure.
I had fun almost the entire time. It's crazy that Tobin Bell still looks the same, even though he's just a perpetually old guy.
I wonder about that sometimes. Like, I'm like, if I go back and watch number 1 right now, did he look as old as I think he looked? Or was it that I was 15 or whatever and he looked ancient, and now I'm 32 and he looks ancient?
It's still,
but it's different,
He's one of those guys. He's like Tommy Lee Jones, where you just never really remember what he looked like when he was young.
Yeah, right.
But he's great. And
yeah, he really is.
John Kramer is he is a well-written, for the most part, character.
Yeah, well-written, well-performed. I was thinking about this very thing while I was watching the movie today. I was like, I don't like everything about the Saw movies, even the ones that are good. Like, I still have, like, major issues with the franchise. Like, for starters, the compelling stories in some of them are they are taken away from by the compulsion to include the most cringy gore possible. And I'm like, I get it, but those feel like different things to me. Like a good story and the need to make us watch for 15 minutes straight someone's, eyeballs getting sucked out of their skull or whatever. Like,
spoilers, dude.
Yeah, spoilers. Those things, they, like, I enjoy the one and I don't enjoy the other, and I feel like forcibly including the one almost detracts from like the well-written story stuff. It's like a sidetrack to do all this stuff over here. So that's how I feel about
deep into it,
yeah, that's how I feel about the movies. But I did find myself thinking, I'm like, Jigsaw as a like John Kramer as a character, like, he deserves to go down in history as like one of those like freaking
Freddy Krueger's, Jason,
like, sure,
Michael Myers,
those as well, those come to mind. But the one I'm drawing the most direct comparison to, I can't remember his name, Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, like, yeah, evil man,
you know what I mean?
Guy,
yeah. It just seems, he seems like he has every bit the gravitas of like Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
And I think that even if people don't revere these movies in the future, they really ought to give the character of John Kramer a close look and give him his due.
I think Saw is definitely already entrenched itself into our culture enough that I don't know if it'll ever go away.
Yeah.
Whether we want it to or not.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting, like, the whole way through to show you, like, his basic thought process and then also what's happening to him and how he's, like, interpreting sort of these shitty things. Like, when they show Oh, I want to do the traps like all together, but when they show like that kid stealing stuff, and then it does like what he would do, but then he gives the kid a chance.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I thought the only part about that trap is that it wasn't real, or it sucked. The only part about that trap that sucked is that it wasn't real.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Let's talk about the traps, and we'll go over them individually if we have the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the first trap was the one where it's the sticky fingers, and it's like the dude, his hands, he has to turn the dial to break his fingers before his eyeballs get sucked out.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of that trap?
I was like eating popcorn, and as it started in and I realized that this was the guy from the poster who was going to get his eyes sucked out, I was like, oh, I kind of wish I wasn't eating right now. You know what I actually thought about the trap overall was I feel like breaking each finger individually, like as opposed to getting your eyeballs sucked out of your head,
not that bad.
Is a tiny price. I would have just dialed that thing straight to 5 in like a second.
Right? Like he's purposely filling every single one of them, and it's so dumb. Just go boop. If there's nothing stopping you from just turning it, just turn it.
Right. People break their fingers every day, and it's like fine. Like that would hurt, but not near as inconvenient as getting your eyeballs sucked out of your head.
Yeah, and granted, this is off the top of the dome for Jigsaw. Like, maybe he would have figured out the connection later. Yeah. But I really thought it was weird that he had to break his fingers so his eyeballs didn't get sucked out. Like, what was the connection?
The philosophical,
through line.
It was probably... I was waiting for him to say something, because he mentioned sticky fingers, but I was waiting for him to say something about how your eyes have led you astray, like he did to the guy in, like, 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or 4, maybe. I forget.
One of those. I've seen... Anyways. I don't get the connection. And then it's also you break your fingers, but that's also not an irreversible break.
Yeah.
Like later on, we'll get there, but some of the other shit happening to people is like, that's not irreversible. Yeah. This dude, it's like, okay, your hand's gonna be fucked up, and sure, you're gonna have like forever trauma with the one hand.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not that bad, bro.
Right. Agreed.
Just do it.
Yep. 100%.
It's not a bear trap that rips your jaw in half.
Right. Yeah. Truly not that bad.
So, I don't know. So that was crazy. And then the second trap, which I think is probably my favorite because of how bad it is the pipe bombs.
Oh, I was skipping that one in my mind. I totally forgot about that one.
The pipe bombs etched it, or like threaded through that guy's muscles, and he does it.
Oh yeah,
that's the worst trap so far. No. It's not the worst trap. In this movie though, watching him like cut, it was too much.
And just pour buckets of blood, and it was terrible because he's like stabbing into stuff, but then he's also prying, like it's all the soft tissue. Ooh, it was bad. Yeah, that was hard to watch for sure.
And then, but also just imagining the fucking thing exploding on his arms was hard to think about.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, nasty.
So that guy, this series is famous for bringing people back. I thought he was going to be his sidekick in this movie after he passed his test, but since all he did was interrogate him, get some answers, and then put him through his own test, and he survived, you can believe that guy's coming back in the next one or 2 from now. He's going to be a convert or something.
Yeah, he'll be Amanda's friend before Amanda died, and then. But he'll be the secret mastermind all along.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that one was probably my favorite, and I don't know why. If you can have a favorite gruesome trap.
Sure, yeah.
Tell me if you have a favorite one. Tell me when we get there.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. That was one that because I was able to watch the eyeball one, cringing the whole time.
Yeah,
but I watched the eyeballs come out.
Yeah.
This one, I think, is when I was starting to do like the just like squinting, trying to take in the least amount of light possible.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was gnarly.
Okay, and then after that, it was Valentina's. You get to go over this one.
Whew. Oh, this one was nasty. It wasn't probably as visually nasty for as long as what's his name's with the pipe bombs. But Valentina's she was sitting in a chair with, I guess it's called a gili saw, the saw where you just have like a wire with serrations or something, and you cut through a limb. She had a gili saw like set up around her head, like on a rack that would, it's going around, and it would come and saw her head clean off if she didn't first use a smaller gili saw to saw her own leg off and suction, 3
Bone
ounces
marrow?
of marrow into a weighted, or like a
device that would
scale.
Yeah,
that would weigh it. And it was just horrendous to watch because she was probably the most, she was the best at being terrified by the situation out of all the characters. Her her dogged, fearful resistance to the whole thing was like, it was a little traumatizing just to watch her confront the situation. And then when she gets into it, like her first like through her flesh was like, oh, like you didn't even see much at that point, but it felt so bad.
But then by the time you're watching it and it's showing it more often, that was one I couldn't look at.
When she was like frantically going at it, it was really disturbing. I didn't enjoy that.
I do think this is one of the bullshit ones where it's like, she was there, bro. Like, just give it to her, John. John, she had like seconds
3,
left,
2,
and
1.
you still killed her? Why?
Yeah.
Especially because it's like, if we're going on the hierarchy of evil, which John doesn't have. John just thinks if you're evil, you're evil.
Yeah.
She was just a part of the scam, but she was also like a person in need, It wasn't like, I don't know. Yeah. I just don't blame her as much as you blame like the person who inevitably is going to be fine, or not fine, she gets out of this.
Yeah.
So that really sucked. And then we had like seconds away, pound, or like not even pounds away. I don't know, ounces, milliounces.
Yeah, right.
Milliounces are a thing, right?
Probably.
And then Mateo has almost the exact same thing happen, where his thing is he has to dig a hole into his brain, into his skull, and then pull out a piece of his brain matter and puts it in the thing. But when John was explaining that, he said they say it's possible for your brain to be okay after such a thing. But it's like, John, if you're gonna make the guy do it to himself, why would you make sure? Like, you got to make sure he's not brain dead afterwards. Or what does he get to learn?
Then he doesn't learn. Yeah, exactly.
Then he's just dead anyways, or a vegetable.
I had the same thought on that one. I was like, this is silly. It's like, oh, the human brain is remarkably resilient. There are reports that blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, there are reports.
But he doesn't have a steady hand. He's not performing surgery. He's
just yanking it. Yeah, he literally yanks out a piece of his brain. And then again, for this one, it's just seconds. Seconds of not being... and it's not even his fault at this point.
Right.
I guess you could say it's his fault and Valentina's fault for hesitating. But it's like, come on. Give them an extra minute because you know they're all going to fucking...
Yeah. Oh, that one was nasty. Yeah, honestly, like, a lot of the traps in a lot of the movies are hard to watch, but I feel like this whole movie was, like,
very
hard to watch. It was, heavy on that stuff.
Well, at least those first 4 were pretty bad. I didn't have as much trouble with the 4th one, Gabriella.
Yeah, that was far less gory.
Yeah, more, and also it's like you just has to break her foot and break her hand. Yeah. Because she's hanging with her foot attached and her arm attached, and pulling her in the air, and then she has like a radiation thing being pointed at her and being increasingly more deadly, more burny. And again, if you got that much radiation, as much radiation as she does in that movie, would you be fine? No complications. Are you living a good life after that?
Right.
In
Probably
any
not.
significant fashion?
Probably not. I definitely think that, like, for as much burning as we saw on the outside from the intensity of the radiation, like, there has to be stuff we're not seeing on the inside, you know?
Like, he gives a lot of credit to the human body being resilient, but it's like, it's not that resilient.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, Gabriella's was interesting because it did feel... It felt more proportionate to her crime than Valentina's, like you said. And it was less gory and less disturbing in that way, but still an uncomfy idea, you know, to think about being put under a radiation
and
gun.
kind of your skin boiling off. Like, that's not fun.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as cringeworthy as the other ones.
Yeah, and it did feel more like escapable. It's almost like, I think I could almost do that, you know?
Yeah,
kind of like the fingers one.
Yeah. I'd break my foot.
And she does. She escapes it, and then this was actually compelling character stuff, I thought, where Amanda, who is a former drug addict. You would say recovering drug addict.
Yeah.
And Gabriella, who is currently not in recovery but is a drug addict, is going to basically be started on the same path that Amanda was through this process. And Amanda is like rooting for her because she empathizes with her, and she didn't want to put her through this because she knows what she's already going through. But they did it. She succeeds. Amanda can just about, you know, take satisfaction in Gabriella's triumph and watch her start a new life. And then, oh my gosh, this evil lady.
Yeah. Haven't even talked about what is her name? Penderson?
Pedersen. Something Pedersen.
She's horrible. She's like an actual evil villain. And I think the only reason they made her as evil as she is so that when you're comparing her to John Kramer, you go, you know, at least within the world of this movie. Because if you compare it to Jigsaw and all of his crimes in general, you know, they're still just as bad as each other.
Right.
But within the framework of this movie, it kind of makes you believe, like, John Kramer's bad, but, you know, she's fucking...
Yeah, and it's all about the ideologies, because you're right, John Kramer has killed dozens of people in horribly brutal ways, and he wouldn't say that he's killed them, but she doesn't care about inflicting pain or any she doesn't care about inflicting the most innocent person with the worst of misery.
Yeah.
And all of his stuff, his ideology is that it's all
people's choices that lead them to be in his chairs, and then it's their choice to get out of it. Well, you know,
so when
if
you
think about it for too
ideologies
long
against each other, it does seem like it's convincing in this movie that she's more evil, but
but they're both shitty people. But I also feel like this movie tries to believe that John Kramer is a quote-unquote good guy, or at least sometimes it like hints at the case that it wants it to be.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he draws the line at the kid that they bring in. It's like, yeah, that's a good line to draw in the sand. But you're not a hero because you won't let the kid drown in blood.
Right. It's almost like you can't do the things he's done and still have any humanity, but what we see in that sequence is that he has boatloads of humanity when it comes to the right situations. So it is a little disjointed. Yeah.
I mean, at least if you're just talking, I get what the movie is doing. I just don't know if it feels right in those specific moments. But and then the last trap, which we get. Well, I guess it's not the last trap. The second to last trap, where it's not even really a trap. It's just a device. Because presumably it was supposed to be Amanda and Tobin Bell and John Kramer in it, and then they would just trade it off until the people got frustrated and went upstairs on their own accord. Yeah. And instead, what happens is it's John Kramer and the little boy that was kicking the wall with the ball.
Right.
Which, and then they get put into it, and then John Kramer is like, don't touch the knob. I'm just going to, suffer the brunt of this, cause even though I know it's going to end soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's not really a trap. It was a cool idea, though.
It was. I do think that I think him and Amanda being strapped to it was only a contingency thing. I think it was intended for what's her name, Dr. Pedersen, and her boyfriend. I think that like having the room that they end up in as a trap was like a contingency plan, because it was going to be one or the other of them the whole time. And I think the first recourse for that was the bloodboarding table.
Oh, so they were supposed to be on the bloodboarding table somehow.
I think so.
Oh. Are you good? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm leaving that in and telling them to watch so they can see you ignore it.
Okay, it's a guy named Tom.
Okay, I'll message him.
Cool.
I still have him on Facebook, I think. Or I mean MySpace. It would have been better if I got it right the first time. Fuck. Yeah, well, I mean, whatever it was supposed to be. It's a cool idea. And then, that would still make sense with their, like, cryptic-y, she's going to kill you tonight, you just don't know it yet. Like, all that kind of stuff. And by the time we get to that point, when they play that music again, I can't hum it, but the twist music, it's always so good.
I know. I love, even when the moment itself isn't as good as it is in some other movies, it's like that music is so associated with
so
like
iconic. It's like it's like a Star Wars song or a Harry Potter song. It's just like an old John Williams classic.
Totally.
And then the last trap is the lamest, where it's just like, you're in a room now, and one of you has to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then she lives.
I don't think I like the formula at all, where it's like, oh, both of these people, like... So, I feel like his premise is undermined when he pits two people against each other, because the whole thing is like, everyone deserves a chance at redemption. And it's like, redemption means going through hell and maybe sacrificing some things permanently, but like, you can get out. But when it's like a one or the other thing, it's like, first of all, both don't have an equal chance for redemption. Well, I guess they have an equal chance for redemption, but there's a 0% chance that both get redemption.
Yeah.
So is it equal?
I don't understand, because I think they try to pull in the number 3 movie where they're like, the test is inaction. You remember that? Because like the whole thing is like, the wife is probably going to die. So the inaction is Amanda is supposed to have inaction so that she doesn't kill the wife. Okay. And then the husband needs to have inaction because he needs to save his wife rather than killing John Kramer.
Okay.
In this movie, there's a similar premise of where the boyfriend scammer guy comes in later, and he is given a test where it's like, your inaction is not using a gun.
Yeah, right.
And then he fails that test. But there is nothing leading up to him grabbing that gun that would ever convince him not to grab that gun.
True that.
So I don't know what the actual test... So, he was always going to betray them.
Right. And all he had were John's words. Yeah, there was no
it's not like they were
test.
It's not like they were showing the true character of the woman, Pedersen, before.
Right.
Because she was actively encouraging every single person to get out of their trap.
Right.
While we're told she is thinking the opposite, You know, she's still actively performing good deeds or like trying to be a good, you know, person.
Coach them through it.
Yeah, so that seems a little wonky. Like, wouldn't the trap be something, or wouldn't you would think his thing would be different?
Yeah, agreed.
Anyways, so
I hadn't really noticed that. Sorry, I didn't really put that together until you said it. That like her stated intention at the end, or her stated position at the end was like, oh, I'm just glad all of them are dead because that way I don't have to off them and I get to split the money with fewer people. But she was actively encouraging them to do the thing they needed to do to get out. So that is a little wonky.
Yeah, and it didn't give the guy any reason not to want to see John Kramer dead.
Yeah.
Not to hold him at gunpoint. So I don't know. I still like the movie. I still, like I said, I still think the ride's very fun. Like getting to all those points, even though the traps are very brutal, very gory. I think that's kind of what makes these movies fun at this point, and the fact that they're leading into it, you know, probably better overall.
Sure. I think when it comes to the majority of the audience, I think that's true. I think that's what will sell these movies. For me, it's the opposite, though, where I'm like, I'm going to see if they continue to make developments on the overarching story. Like, that's the part that interests me.
And I do think the story was actually good in this one.
Yeah.
Like, to have the motive both discovered, John Kramer discovers why he wants to kill them, and then we go through, like, him setting it up and all that stuff. Like, that's interesting.
Totally. And interestingly, it was like a whole isolated episode from his life that was like, aside from any potential future connections where like, what's his name comes back, pipe bomb guy, or whatever, besides any potential future stuff, it really had nothing to do with the overarching story other than that it takes place after he's found out he's going to die and before he dies.
Yeah. It was very good that it didn't try to do what what a lot of people thought it would eventually do, is bring John Kramer back, but it's like, well, he was never dead.
I was wondering if they were going to go that route, yeah.
And they still have that opportunity.
Yeah, it'd be very hard to pull off because we definitely saw his dead body.
In multiple movies, right?
Yeah.
We saw his brain get exploded in one of them. Yeah, so I'd say overall, this is probably a little higher, maybe like a 7 for me. Okay.
For me, all the Saw movies sit below like a 6, but it's because like I really struggle with the
gore.
The gore, yeah, I find it very distasteful.
No gore, it's an 8, but because there's gore, it's a 6.
Probably something like that. I think, though, that, this ranks high among the Saw movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can feel that. I'll say I'll watch the other ones, but I'm not gonna.
You have seen the best ones, though. I mean, honestly, there's nothing like number one. Nothing quite like number one.
I'll stop while I'm ahead. Let's jump to The Exorcist. Because I think the other two will be smaller for me.
Okay.
What do you think of The Exorcist? And have you seen the original?
I have not seen the original.
Okay.
I have no intention to see it. The whole thing is uninteresting to me. I would not have seen this one if it wasn't for the fact that we wanted to review it. Yeah.
I thought you were saying you liked possession horror, though.
Possession horror is interesting to me, but The Exorcist is not interesting to me. And that's just from the few clips I've, like, little doses of it that I've seen.
So the original Exorcist, isn't that like the birthplace of possession horror?
Probably.
Or
I don't know.
Close
Probably.
to what created a craze?
I think probably yes.
Yeah, we're not film historians, but maybe.
might be the granddaddy of them all, but it's a take on it which I don't care for.
Okay. Explain that a little further. Because, like, the whole movie, it's like, with this movie, too, it's about belief. And like, struggling with faith and stuff.
Yeah. I think the reason The Exorcist from what I know of The Exorcist
Mm-hmm.
and this sequel, the reason they don't interest me is because they're not scary. Like, what I think is compelling about possession horror is the scariness of it. And I don't find these scary. I just, by the, okay, this one that we just watched, I feel differently about the first half and the second half. But I'm going to speak only to the second half right now. Okay. By the time it gets to where it thinks it's being scary, it's just being nasty. Not nasty to the same extent as the Saw movies or anything, but it's just like, I don't know, it just thinks that like being gross is being scary. And it thinks
you're not
being,
with the shock.
Right, yeah. Thinks being unrealistically extreme about what can happen under the situation of possession. It thinks that exaggerating the situation is scary. And it's not. Like, I think I've said this here before. I'm not sure. I've said this to many of my friends before, but I've probably said it here on our show that, like, what is scary about ghosts, demons, possession, and stuff like that is the prospect that it could happen. Mm-hmm. And if you are someone who believes that it is something that could happen, like, the real version of it, like, doesn't include any of these things that we see in movies. And so it's like, you're trying to, they're setting it in our world, right? Like, it's set in the real world, sort of. And that's because there is this element within our real world that is potentially horrifying.
Yeah.
And then they take that thing and make it not like it is in the real world. They make it something else. So it's like, it's no longer scary. If you were to set this in a totally different reality and explain to me the realities of this situation and the horror associated with it, like, then those moments could actually have effect on me. If I'm suspending my disbelief and I'm in this world where these things are this way, I could probably be horrified at or scared of what I'm seeing and the implications of it. But because you're telling me it's set in the real world and then doing things that are outside of the real world, I don't feel like I can suspend my disbelief. I just feel disbelief. And I'm not scared.
I want to ask a follow-up, but this is where, like, our religious differences comes into play. Because I would just say it all seems unreal.
Okay.
But you know, that doesn't help anything, because I want to try to understand. So what do you think would happen in a possession?
I think possession situations are more like...
And do you think there is a movie that you've seen that is more realistic to what you think would happen?
I struggle to recall, because I know I watched a handful of possession movies like in high school, and I know that I don't recall them well enough to know whether they are anything that I find believable or not. Okay. But probably not. Like, honestly, I can't specifically recall a single possession movie that I thought really
then in your mind, what would be like a real possession?
Yeah, I think it kind of caps itself at someone being affected by a spirit or demon or entity of some sort that's just able to get inside them and extremely disturb them. You know what I mean? Like, really, really mess up their mind and whatnot.
So more like the depression route?
No, more so, well, I'd say more along the lines of psychosis route, where you're just kind of not actually interfacing with reality anymore, but the things you are interfacing with are actively harming you. And so I think it's, you know, like you can get to the exact same place via like internal or external circumstances in life that have nothing to do with another entity. I just think that there are ways that other entities can also get you there. So it's basically the exact same thing as like severe mental illness.
Okay.
It's the same effect anyway.
So you don't.
I think you can make that scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So you don't believe in like the voice changing, the speaking through, or like the mass amount of knowledge.
I think there are elements of that I could buy.
Okay.
Like I could,
like when they're talking to the father and they bring up the instance where he's like, you were given a choice, and I know that you chose the mother over the daughter, but then the daughter was what you were given anyways.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that's possible?
Undecided on that. Possible, sure. I think maybe that kind of stuff is possible. But I think largely that, like, if there is something that has gotten inside you and is at least at times taking the steering wheel, but it's something that's not accustomed to having a human body, and so it is more wild and erratic and disturbing in its use of that human body, I think you do get things like probably, like, it might, in speaking, not have a different voice, like, from a different person, but, like, it might use the voice in a funny way, like
like
you
an
can
impression
make
rather than like
right
a full on.
You can make all kinds of voices yourself. I don't think that if there were a demon inside of you, it could make you make a voice that you're not physically capable of making. I think it might make you make one of the voices you can make that sounds disturbing. Yeah. Because, like, they're all about that, right?
Yeah.
In theory.
Okay.
About the disturbing, I mean. And the knowledge thing, maybe. Like, maybe it's possible that these are things that have sat by on the sidelines and observed certain things and then can bring those into the conversation if they're in a position where they're inhabiting a body and able to use it to speak. Like, I could conceive of that being true.
Okay. So, separate from your own belief on possession, well, so I think the thing with The Exorcist, the first one, is the main reason that one was so scary was because the grotesque and the shock that was, like, never seen before. And I do think that
I think that's exactly what people reacted to. I think that people found it very scary because of all that stuff.
Yeah, then this movie tries to stay within that because when we were talking about, like, The Nun before, the thing we complained about is that it got too bombastic at the end.
Right.
And I think if we're talking, like, smaller possession movies, this one definitely goes against the Pope's Exorcist or the Pray For Me or whatever, where the ending is contained. It's all in one room, and it's all melodrama and not a lot of actual, like, consequences. You know, it's all what's being said. There is a guy's neck that gets turned around and broken.
But I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, besides that, it was like it's all more about, like, the grotesqueness of what's happening.
Yeah, so that is a good point. It's like there are no portals to hell opening or anything crazy like that, or not fully anyway. You know, they did, like, expel a demon through the fireplace or whatever. Yeah. But then, like, I think it's, like, just as unreasonable or just as unbelievable that somehow this thing that is possessing this person can just, if it has the ability to just exert.
Yeah, the breaking the neck thing was dumb because, like, they never
just total power over matter at a distance in a different person.
They don't show that ever at any other point. Yeah, no, I don't even think that happens in the first movie.
I don't think so. I think doesn't she turn her own head around or something like that?
But she doesn't, and I think she pushes people. But that, if I remember right, that should be the extent of her force capabilities. Yeah,
and even that, like, sticking to what seems to be the case in the first movie, even that is far more believable than like the breaking of a neck of a third person without even touching them, kind of. It's like that's what I don't get is, like, so I'm just a stickler for details. Like, things have to make sense, right? And in a world where any random ass demon has just total power over all matter, can do whatever in the hell it wants to anybody, then, like, why does it have any of the limitations that it has? Why does it, like, have to shake and shudder at the image of a cross and whatnot? It's like, bull crap. It would just light the whole place on fire and walk on out of there. It apparently can do whatever it wants.
I mean, in this one, it was definitely, it wasn't shaking it. It used a cross as a weapon.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't feel consistent because the exorcism from the first movie had different rules than the exorcism in this movie. but they kind of hint to it being a similar demon, if not the same Pazuzu.
Right. With the mom and everything.
Yeah, I want to say Chris McNeil. I don't understand why she was in this movie at all.
So was she the mom,
who gets
like the same actor in the first one? Okay.
I think so.
Interesting.
And Chris McNeil's the character's name.
Yeah.
I also think the daughter is probably played by the same person. If
she looked like it. From what I can remember of the image of that girl's face.
Reagan.
Yeah, she looked like the same person. And I felt like that moment at the end was a little like, I was like, she's like,
lame.
I'm here, Mom. And I was like, oh, what we've all been waiting for. I don't care. Like, get out of here.
Been dead. They could have said she's dead, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Same, yeah, for real.
Because I don't think Chris McNeil did anything. The only reason she was, like, story-wise, besides maybe a little bit of explanation, why was she there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
didn't do much for me.
Yeah, she just gets stabbed, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm. And then she's out of the game, yeah.
It seems like they are trying to do, because it's the same guy who directed and wrote Halloween. It seems like they're trying to do, like, a Laurie Strode thing.
Right, yeah.
But then why wouldn't you use Reagan and not the mother and blah, 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 and I don't know. It just didn't feel like any of that mattered. And for a movie that, like, it feels like it has a lot of stuff that already doesn't matter, and it's getting up to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we had a lot of that, like, back and forth of, like, the girls do something crazy, and then they're like, well, we got to get them help. And then it's like, oh, they're doing something crazy again.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to get them help.
Uh-huh.
Oh, crap, it's crazy, and now we believe it's possession. Oh, you're going to get them help. And then, like, it didn't seem like there was any, like, forward momentum in, like, those, in, like, that middle 30 minutes.
Yeah. I have a question for you, like, it's basically the same question that you asked me, which is that within your worldview or within your taste in fiction, or just like within your perspective, what does and doesn't work in a possession movie or a possession situation in a movie?
I haven't maybe seen enough. I think the creepiest part is the more subtle stuff.
Okay.
I mean, so I don't believe in possession or demons.
Okay.
Which is the lame answer. Like
No, that's totally valid.
Yeah. But if it were to happen, I do think it would be like I think it didn't work for me in this movie, the sharing of the voices, because it felt uncanny, like it wasn't really synced correctly. Like you always, like I always, and maybe it's because I know, like a small amount about what like ADR is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So I can't tell if it's like if it's my knowledge of knowing it's not real, or like that I can't stop. Anyways. So the voice thing didn't work for me in this one. But then when I'm thinking of, like, Talk to Me, like, the voices when they're doing it in that one, that's creepy.
Yeah, that's true.
I do think a lot of the interesting stuff is, like, the localized horror, where it's, like, the demon can make you harm yourself. It can make you harm other people with your body.
Yeah.
It physically deteriorates its host. That's creepy.
Yeah.
I do think the shock stuff just doesn't work anymore. I think it had a place in its time, but you know, we just watched a movie where a dude's eyes gets pulled out, like you know, pissing and pooping and throwing up, and little girls saying the F word is like, none of that matters as much in a modern day.
Right. Yep.
So yeah, I think a lot of it is just like, it's the uncanny, it's the fact that something's in there and it's tainting, and if you believe in a soul, it's tainting your soul, and the repercussions of like where your soul will go afterwards.
Yeah.
Like that's the scary stuff.
It's all unsettling. Yeah. I'm with you. I think I am compelled by the same things as you in those situations.
And I do think this one is a mixed bag of all of that. It has stuff that I do think is creepy and parts that I do think are scary, and then it also has a lot of stuff that just doesn't really, Like, I'm not scared at the last, like, during the climax. I'm more just, like, paying attention. Mm-hmm. But when they're first trying to talk to the ghost, like, that stuff's scary.
Yeah, yeah.
When they first
like out in the woods, the two girls.
They're in that
absolutely.
hole.
Yep.
That little trench.
Yep. I think, so going back to what I said about the two halves of the movie, mm-hmm. I think that walking in, what I was expecting was what I got in the second half, which is a whole lot of stuff that I just didn't care for. So I was surprised by the first half, because I really liked the first half. I liked all the setup. I found the characters interesting and well acted. I mean, even the situations in the dialogue were well written. Everything about the movie for the first half, well, sorry, this probably applies to the second half as well, but everything about the movie seemed very deliberate, very intentionally dialed in to what it like wanted to be. Yeah. All of the shots, all of the cuts, all of the visuals, all of the audio, everything seemed just so fine-tuned, and I love that like intentionality, like just when you can tell that nothing was done by accident. It was all stylistically focused. Yeah. Yes, yeah. Really enjoyed all of that. And I agree, like all the like elements leading into like all of the setup, I found there were a lot of creepy elements to that, and I was really enjoying that. And then when it all just kind of like spiraled into stereotypical possession movie with all the things that I don't enjoy and don't find compelling, I kind of couldn't focus anymore on like, oh, this is so deliberate and well fine-tuned. I just could only focus on the things I didn't find compelling.
I see. Yeah, it definitely does feel like two different experiences. I mean, I do think the one of the interesting things in the second half is that the movie is basically saying, I originally thought it was saying there's not like a true religion, mm-hmm. but with how it, you know, I think it says something like that, but then like all the people in the room are all denominations of Christianity.
Yeah.
So true. By the end, it's like, okay, so really we're just talking like Christianity's right.
Yeah. Right.
'Cause even the woman who uses like the herbs and spices, and all that stuff, herbs and spices, it might be offensive. Anyways, like she's
sounds like a KFC recipe.
Yeah, like a pepperoni pizza and what we're putting on top of it. When she was using the oregano. No, so she, I think, is stemmed in Christianity.
Yes.
Like, it's not.
I think she even quoted the Bible at some point.
Yeah, and she says stuff like, my Lord or my Creator.
Yeah.
So all of that, you know, I do think it's interesting, though, that basically it was like, we're going to use a combined of our beliefs. And it was more about bringing people together off of shared beliefs rather than just saying, like, it's Catholicism, and Catholicism's the only thing that'll save us like the other movies do.
Right. Yeah. That was something I could appreciate.
Yeah, and I also like the parallels of choice when it was like, you know, choose between your wife or your newborn daughter, and then the one that he chose didn't come true. Yeah. And then the demons literally asked for a choice. And then once the choice was made, again, it wasn't what you know. The choice was the ploy to get you to sell the soul.
Yeah. So tell me this. Maybe I missed something, but why, in the aftermath of what happened, when the sirens, like the police, rolled up and everything, why wasn't everyone in prison in the next scene for the murder of a small child and a priest? Like, why was he at school dropping his daughter off? Like, bull crap, man.
That's just movie things.
It was so stupid. Even if it's like
they never had the thing where it's like, okay, so what happened? Oh, you guys are performing an illegal exorcism.
Yeah. So that's just it. It's like, even if they could prove that there was some real demonic entity involved and that it was what killed the daughter. It's like, well, they were still being negligent for like ignoring all laws and like locking themselves in a room with this
Catholic Church
demon.
didn't even say it was cool.
Yeah, they were like, don't do it. And so they locked these children in a room with a bunch of people and basically like put them through the ringer, and one of them dies. Yeah. It's like, in any reality, that's still like
murder.
You're still responsible for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I can say is it's just movie things. How many movies have you watched where you're like, yeah, they're going to prison, and then they just don't?
Yeah, that's always so disappointing.
It's just story things, I guess, because it would be so unsatisfying.
I would have found it so satisfying if they all wound up in prison afterward. I would have loved that.
Okay, I'm on bat. Let's do that. I thought the ending in general was very unsatisfying because I get the whole choice thing, but again, it like why did Catherine have to die?
Right. Yeah.
Not that Catherine was like a developed character; it just seemed unnecessary.
Yeah, and honestly, if these, like Chris McNeil or whatever said in the beginning, if these demons really just want to subject humans to misery, then why would they, like, you have to choose? Oh, now that you chose, we're tricking you and killing the one, but we're going to let the other one go because it's not the one you chose. Why wouldn't they just drive them both into the ground? Like, all they want is human misery. Why are they offering deals? Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, it's just like ideas of demons that have been around forever. Oh, I guess that's the other part that I didn't mention. It's also creepy when demons lie to you or they, like, convince you.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff is creepy. Like when the demon is saying to the nurse, like bringing up like the pregnancy she lost and her nun name, like that stuff is creepy.
Yeah, for sure.
Or and then when they're in the room, it's like, I'm just gonna start blasting you with like past traumas you don't want to think about.
Right. Yeah. That's because honestly, it feels at that point like the demon has gotten inside of those other people, but just in a different way. You know, it's like physically possessing someone, but then it's like in everyone else's heads.
Yeah. Nasty.
Yeah.
Demons are nasty. I don't know. I think there's probably more to say about this, but I think overall it was just kind of meh. Like I definitely like Saw more than this. It's better than The Creator if we do like a ranking of the 4 movies we're going to talk about, but it stopped being scary after a while, and I didn't think enough stuff was developed for me to care about anything else in it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense. I need to think of that.
No, that did make sense to me, and I think I agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just a little spooky. It was made very well. They do a lot of things that are cool, but at the end of the day, it was just unsatisfying.
Yeah. Yep. Amen. We ready to say 5 words about dumb money?
Yeah. Dumb money.
Was dumb and... Just kidding. What are your thoughts?
And about money. I didn't think I would... But I think this movie is probably my favorite of the weeks.
Same.
And I think it's because it's a drama. It's stylized. It uses the R word a lot, and that's my favorite word. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I think the style of it, and it felt refreshing. I really like I, Tonya. It felt like I, Tonya.
Okay.
In some aspects. I think if you looked into the real life story of it, I think this movie is a little too black and white on the morals of betting in the stock market and the whole like big guy little guy narrative that was created. I don't know, how accurate that actually was.
Sure.
For the whole movement. I mean, maybe it was. Maybe it was. It's all an outsider thing for me.
Sure.
It just didn't seem like it was all that cool while it was happening.
Yeah.
But this movie makes it seem like it was really cool.
Yeah, totally
Yeah.
does. I agree. I think it was my favorite, mostly because of the style. Obviously, doesn't mean it was without its weaknesses, because it had many. I think one of my least favorite things about it was how it tried to do exposition. It often took people who should have had no idea what they were talking about and have them say things that were very informative to the viewer. It's just like, that person would never say that thing. They have no idea what they're talking about. Like, I could be remembering this wrong, but I swear when America Ferrera was talking to her nurse coworker, she was like something about GameStop, and then he goes GME, like it's freaking NYSE title, and it's like, he clearly doesn't invest in anything. Why would he know its trading name? Like,
yeah, everyone knows the inside baseball. So that they don't have to explain it to every character.
Exactly. So that was a little lame. And like the two girlfriends in college, the way that exposition was done through them as well, I didn't find interesting. And I found their characters very, like, I think they were all based on real people. And so these two people were real, but I didn't find the portrayal of them very
to be real,
believable. Yeah, I don't know. It was
a couple of the side characters were just the one note, and that was all that they were ever going to be.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
Like they're just there to say, well, are you gonna? They're the stand-ins for the unnamed thousands of Redditors that followed this guy, and it was all just to see, like, are they gonna sell?
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, the whole point is just so that we can keep coming back to them and seeing whether or not they're selling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a weird experience. I had old people in my theater.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this movie is very internet oriented.
Yeah.
But also they were just like the whole time they were just like, you gotta sell. You gotta sell. Like when they were peaking money wise.
Yeah.
The people behind me were like, why are they just selling? Why are they just selling? And it's like, come on, dude, diamond hands. What are we talking about? Well, you got some papy hands?
Are you not watching the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a movement.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fuck, I was gonna restart a sentence and I lost it. Yeah, when they also... No, that's the end. Okay, give me one sec.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dying out here, man.
And go!
I like... Okay, I liked the I'm fucking it. What was the last thing I was talking about? The papy hands, the diamond hands.
Yeah.
Okay. I liked I think this is one of the most... I think this movie demonstrates internet culture probably better than most movies that are trying to do that.
Yeah.
It had when it was bringing up... I mean, the fact that it used the R word so much is very representative of the internet.
Mm.
It did feel like there wasn't any pushback on that kind of stuff. Because
Sure.
If you know the internet, you know Reddit is full of a bunch of dipshits, and that we should not put them on any kind of pedestal.
Right.
But when the movie was tackling it, it was like, oh yeah, they just say the R word, and bad memes, and they're just quirky like that.
Yeah. They're just quirky like that.
Yeah, like that's how it felt like it was depicting. Yeah. But then when we would do those like montages of like using internet footage and then just like memes and like that stuff brought me a little bit of joy, because I felt like, I live on the internet and that stuff seems accurate to what it is.
Yeah.
It was a good way.
Yeah, true that. I think back to what you were saying about the like big guy, little guy thing. I think that there were some things, not just that were like misrepresented in terms of like the actual story, but that I think were misrepresentative of like the real world and the stock market as a concept and everything. And while like I'm all for people who think they are untouchable finding out otherwise, like I love that. I love that Seth Rogen's character's company apparently like
crashed and burned.
Yeah, like I love that. And it's all because he was ignoring sound judgment because of this notion
Power.
that he was untouchable. Yeah. So I love things like that. But when he's giving his testimony to Congress, if this is something the guy actually said in real life, I don't know. But he's like, the whole idea of the stock market was that if you were someone who, if you were smart and you worked hard and maybe with a little bit of luck, you could make your fortune. And it's like, no, like, yeah, people have figured out how to do that, but that's not the whole idea of the stock market. The whole idea of the stock market is to open up a nearly limitless source of funding for any companies that want to grow. Like, the stock market was created so that companies could tap into more money.
Yeah.
And what makes it a trade, what makes it buyable or doable for the people on the other side of that transaction, which is us, owners, is that you get to own something. Like, so there is an equal transaction taking place.
Yeah.
But it was like it was set up because it was a way for these companies to better themselves. Like it's not the opposite of that.
Have more income.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the stock market isn't anything to be proud of, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you're right. It's not something that was created for the betterment of smaller people or the average everyday guy. It was always built to make people that are richer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then
totally.
Smart people found a way to take advantage of that, and then they just got richer and richer.
And game it. Yep, absolutely. Yep. And that's cool. I like that.
I think it was weird that because the guy's intended thing was that it was just not worth what its value was. But then it's like, GameStop's not worth $300 a share.
No.
So at what point are you like, you're also taking advantage of the thing that you've made a lot of money on?
Yeah, totally. It's
not like purely altruistic as it makes it seem.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And he was like, obviously he estimated the situation correctly in saying it's undervalued and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, like his manipulation of the stock by accidentally employing who knows how many hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of people, I don't know. But like his accidental use of those people to manipulate the stock and then perpetuating that manipulation, it's like, yeah, that's no more or less morally acceptable than what hedge funds do when they short stuff or pump and dump. It's all the same.
Yeah. But also fuck the rich guys, fuck them, bro. Yeah, we don't like rich people until we're rich.
Right.
Yeah, overall I think a couple other things that I really liked. I really liked that Kendrick part where
it was sorry.
Yeah, where they're bouncing between like just different people singing the Kendrick Humble, Sit Down.
Yeah.
Like all of that was cool. It reminded me
fun.
of my favorite part in Magnolia where they also all sing a song together but they're in different places.
Nice.
Magnolia is probably my favorite movie.
Okay.
I thought Paul Dano was cool. I thought all like the hidden, like not hidden, but like you'd notice like Dane DeHaan was in this.
Yeah.
Which was crazy because it's like the first movie he's done in years.
Yeah.
Pete Davidson was cool. I liked that the guy from Transformers, the new Transformers, was in it. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah.
So like I liked all of the actors and like the cast, and I liked how funny it was. Yeah, I think the only stuff that brings it down for me are really the the real life implications and like I don't know. We said some things earlier, but now I can't remember.
Yeah, it feels like there's a forced ideological perspective that just is pointless.
This simplifies it.
Yeah, totally.
Because it doesn't feel like this is like a Big Short situation where the banks were all bad.
Right.
This seems a little grayer, not much grayer, because still fuck the Wall Street and its corporations.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, a lot of people, if I remember right, not everybody can sell when it's that high.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of the times, whether you mean it to be a rug pull or not, there's still people that lose all of their savings in this situation.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you're creating a real lofty situation. And though there was potentially like some manipulation of the trading platform by like removing the buy option for the stock, and while there was some maybe shady stuff that went down in that way, like everything that preceded that, like hedge funds just making bets on things the same way that all of us are doing, it's like, they can.
If you remember right, they were shorting it on purpose because they knew it was all shady too.
So that is a stock manipulation tactic. Like you can heavily short something and essentially force it to fail. Like you can do that.
Yeah.
And they can do it because of the weight of the money that they have in those
the only ones that
those shorts. Yeah. But it's like I don't know. They're just making bets. And maybe they have the weight to kind of nudge those bets to go that way. But I think that that's like a totally different ethical situation than... And it virtually, in my opinion, like only maybe slightly questionable ethical situation as compared to them manipulating the trading platform via back channels and like...
Yes,
coercing someone to...
I mean, that's what makes it the story, is the fact that it was all shut down as it was getting to the highest possibilities that it could have gotten.
Yeah.
Is Robin Hood stepping in. Sebastian Stan, by the way, which was kind of cool.
He was so great.
Yeah. They're all great. They all play, like even Ron Stallworth, Nick Offerman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's truly where it becomes like the shadiest of the shady. And then the fact that all the charges were dropped and then nothing else was done.
Oh, right. Yeah. That does suck to know.
America, bro.
America.
Yeah.
Another character thing, or actor thing, I am realizing, based on the last two movies I saw her in, I don't think...
Woodley?
No, America Ferrera. I don't think I find America Ferrera as charming as I'm supposed to find her. How do you feel about her?
I liked her. I liked her both in this and Barbie because you were
okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I should.
It's the same
but I just
archetype
don't
that she's playing both times, the mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think I don't know her as well as other people do, but I think she plays those two characters pretty well. I was engaged. Yeah. I mean, again, like you were saying, I don't know if her character is realistically going to know that much about the stocks.
Yeah.
Even being on a Reddit stock trading platform or a Reddit stock trading group.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, they were way too knowledgeable. Every single character was way too knowledgeable.
Yeah. I think probably the one that bothered me the most was the two college girls. The white one in particular, she was like, it was like she was just, I don't know. She was saying stuff that I don't think that she would know no matter how much she watched Roaring Kitty's streams. Yeah. And then her, aside from like knowing more than I think she would, she also... The things about her character that were supposed to be compelling, I just didn't find compelling. And you know what? Maybe this is all reducible to she was bad at acting. I'm not sure. But like the whole my father, and then one of these big companies came in and...
Oh, the JCPenney? Not JCPenney.
He was...
Was it JCPenney?
No, it wasn't JCPenney. I don't remember what it was.
We know the store.
It was so stupid. Her whole sad backstory about why she hates the big companies and stuff. And meanwhile, she's a college student who's now worth $200,000. Like, shut up. You're basically the elite. Get out of here.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting to know about. I think using it in her backstory is weird. My dad was a manager at a Kmart or something.
Yeah.
The fact that the that I didn't look into it, but I'm gonna take the movie's word as solid gold.
Cool.
The fact that did happen, where a corporation shorted it so much, bought it out, and then gutted it, and then there were Kmart's. It might have been Kmart. I can't remember.
I don't think it was Kmart.
Was it JCPenney, Kmart?
I don't remember what it was. They might not have even named it. They might have just been like...
No, they definitely named it. They definitely named it. Yeah.
Okay.
It was
Circuit
one of
City.
Those. No, it wasn't Circuit City. It was a department store. I remember that much.
Okay.
Not Sears. Anyways, like that stuff is gut-wrenching to know that hundreds of people lost their job. Or no, I'm sorry, thousands upon potentially millions of people lost their job. And also to imagine like me working up in a company and then to just know that someone richer than me was just like, yeah, I don't care about the value you brought to this company. I'm just going to close it because I have the money to do so.
Right, yeah.
But that as a backstory, it does feel more like exposition rather than like an actual character trait.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what I was feeling.
Yeah. So yeah, still liked it more than all of them. I thought it definitely had more style than the other things.
It's fun as hell.
Yeah.
I want to hire Pete Davidson to act in something that I write just so he can scream from the other room. He's just, when he does that like screaming grunting voice, he's just so he's funny all the time, but that's just such a funny sound, man. Ma, that's you.
Yeah.
I just busted up laughing at that part.
Yeah. I like that. I also, Paul Dano in this is really good. He plays like awkward, passionate, shy very well.
I like Paul Dano, but this might be like, I might have liked him more in this than ever before. Yeah. I really liked him.
Better than the Riddler.
Much better than the Riddler.
Because you've already seen the best Riddler actor in your own movie.
That's true. I have. And that movie has been sitting on my hard drive for like a year now. And
one day somebody will see the genius of this Riddler. But right now, it's just you.
Yeah. Did you know I had to change actors on that last minute? I had I wrote the whole thing with a particular person in mind. It was my roommate, actually. And I wrote the whole thing and just conceived of every aspect of it like with him in mind. And then the shoot dates that we planned got pulled out from under our feet because of someone else's last minute withdrawal. And he was flying in from San Diego, so that shot like his ability, like he had a limited number of days he could break free from work to come do this project, and so then he just kind of wasn't able to get the time off again, and so I just had to like recast. Sorry, he was a former roommate who had moved to San Diego, but then I had to recast locally here.
Dang.
And it wound up good, like the guy that did
it. You found a guy that was much better.
Well, a guy that was also right for the role. Yeah, so it worked out.
No. He was much better.
That's funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You already had your first thing as a director where you had to figure it out,
Yeah.
I watched the guy who Pony Smasher. The guy who directs like Shazam and that one Annabelle movie and Lights Out.
Okay.
He was a YouTuber, but he has a video where he's like, the most important job of a director is problem solving. And then he talks about how like one actor couldn't be on set, so they had to like figure out a way to film a scene specifically so that you just didn't realize that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that's kind of, that's what you went through, except you had to hire a whole new person.
Yeah.
I think Dumb Money, probably still just an 8 out of 10, maybe 7.5.
I think that I think that I feel the same way about Dumb Money as you do, but I think we use our number scales differently. Because for me, an 8 is like close to the best movie I've ever seen. Like, I've probably never seen a movie that's a 10, so probably the best things I've ever seen I would call 9s.
Oh, see, I'm liberal with a 10 and
Okay,
a 9.
okay.
I'm more.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I think I do it to where, because I'm also in my mind comparing it to the other things I've rated. So if I rated it a 7, I would be saying it's just as good as Saw X. But in my brain, they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'd call Dumb Money a 7 on my scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I went with the 7.5 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, we're on the same track. Dumb Money, go see it maybe.
Yes.
So next
go see it. Tabor will pay for your ticket.
Yep. Like the Sound of Freedom, I am buying every ticket, and you just have to go to a website to claim it. So we're gonna shoot for Killers of the Flower Moon and Five Nights at Freddy's, which one comes out this next week, and the one comes out the Friday after.
Okay.
They'll be completely different movies. Or no. Actually, they're gonna be the exact same movie. Just directed by different people, and that's why this is such an interesting experiment to see how such similar movies through the minds of different people.
Oh man.
That
is going to be an interesting episode talking about those two movies.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're doing those two, they're both 3 hours long, so there's I don't
You're
know.
kidding, right?
No. Oh no, okay. Five Nights at Freddy's has been chopped down to an hour and 50 minutes.
Are you sure that it wasn't always an hour and 50 minutes? Because
No,
3 hours seems like a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't think I fucking gaslit myself into thinking it was 3 hours, though. Why would I even want that?
I'm looking this up.
Okay, I think at some point, because this is something that has been looked up, is the FNAF movie 3 hours long on Google? And no, it is not. I think at some point there was probably like the Rotten Tomatoes listing had the movie 3 hours long.
Yeah, it sounds like it was something that was on the internet, like it was a scoop or whatever.
Yeah, it was also on IMDb as 3 hours long. And, you know, maybe it was like a Martin Scorsese thing where he's like, we've got 5 hours of footage, but, or like the director's cut is 4 hours long, but I was able to, by the grace of God, to cut it down to 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, we'll do those two.
Cool.
And I might still try to watch Killers of the Flower Moon twice. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, dude. Again, we are talking. I couldn't even watch Oppenheimer twice, and I really like that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I had an opportunity to see an Oppenheimer. Come on, let me get there. Opportunity.
Opportunity.
I had an opportunity to see it again immediately after I watched it the first time.
Uh-huh.
And I considered it. I was going to walk right back into another theater to watch it again. I just didn't.
Nice. All right.
And if I'm not going to do that with Oppenheimer, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that with Killers of the Flower Moon.
I get you.
But I'm going to try. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and hopefully watching these with us.
Jump on into the comments with, like, I don't know, are the things that we say just incredibly stupid? Are our takes on things bad? Do you agree with anything? Just let us know. It'd be very interesting for us to know.
Yeah, and if you made it this far, comment something about how your toes are looking. Don't actually do that.
Please.
No, actually do that.
I'm very interested.
No one's going to make it this far, so please do that. Please comment about your toes, and we'll see you next time.